David, you've got some comments here about RAF Scampton.
Well, yes, there's been an arrest. We've got some video of that in a moment. An arrest at RAF Scampton. There's been protests both for and against the use of RAF Scampton as an asylum centre. And we have a video of the one man who was arrested.
Section 5, you can't arrest him for swearing.
So what we had here was there was protesters against the use of this space as an asylum centre. They were barracked, verbally abused by counter-protesters who were basically they were calling them Nazis. The police weren't very sympathetic and kept basically moving on the protesters against the immigration centre. One man eventually, having been shoved and pushed by the police quite a lot, called one of them a name and was arrested. And the ridiculous claim later was that the police felt that a member of the public may have been offended by that name. So he was just arrested because he annoyed the policeman, and you must respect my authority. The BBC report here continues. Michael Hancock from the Lincoln TUC said their demonstration alongside Stand Up to Racism was a counter-protest to the far-right National Support Detachment, also known as Enough is Enough. He told this organisation, neither of us actually want RAF Scampton to be housing asylum seekers, but the reasons are different. So they actually agree, but we're fighting, we're arguing. We're saying Lincoln says Nazis aren't welcome, but refugees are. Now, this is the issue that if you're calling people who are protesting against asylum, the huge number of immigrants coming into the country, which is a legitimate concern, whether you agree with it or not, it's a legitimate concern. If people in the TUC and political world are just going to call them Nazis, and the police are going to treat them as though they're Nazis, there's eventually going to be a reaction against this sort of brutalisation of a mainstream of opinion within society. And of course, none of this is addressing any of the issues that the people are out protesting about, which is the change to the country that the huge levels of immigration is causing. The BBC here continues with the Home Office's position, which is these sites are more affordable for taxpayers, more manageable for communities due to healthcare and catering facilities on site, 24/7 security and purpose-built, safe and secure accommodation. So we've put the asylum seekers into all the hotels in the country, into all the communities. That's not working. We're now putting them into camps. None of this is getting at the core problem, which is the immigration policy itself.
Yes, and surplus mod property, although we're being told that, of course, our military at the moment is insufficient to fight any substantial wars overseas. So it's just fascinating to watch these two alternative policies come to the fore. But you're going to end for us here, David, with plans for what's described as an 8,000-acre playground for the rich in Scotland.
Yes, this is how the Nationals perceiving it anyway, and they may have a point. So this is Taymouth Castle. Brian, you know this area because I took you to a wonderful little pub once in Kenmore, the village nearby. Taymouth Castle, as you see, is a fine example of Scottish baronial architecture. In fact, one of the finest. We have here in the next photograph an interior shot, and you'll see just how grand it actually is. Now, it's been falling into disrepair for many years. There's a lot of problems with dry rot. There's a requirement for a huge maintenance bill, and no one would take it on. Well, now there is plans to renovate it, and I think that renovation is actually underway, and to construct, as the National reports, a private community over 2 parcels of land, Taymouth Castle and an area in Glenlyon. This is from an organisation known as DLC Clubs. It's an American organisation, and they sell land to prospective members who build their own properties within its boundaries. It's very, very high cost. and very exclusive. The average price to build a house at Discovery Club is $4 million, can cost up to $22 million. So we're talking about essentially a very exclusive gated community. So this prompted Andy Whiteman, former MSP, to start digging into who actually owns all of this. And what he found was it was by no means clear. There was a huge range of companies going through many levels of control in many different jurisdictions and nations. So he traced it back to companies in Luxembourg and in London, without ever really formally establishing too much about who's actually behind all of this. 7,000 acre Glen Lyon estate is owned by Kenmore Hospitality, which is controlled by PLH in the Highlands UK Limited, which is controlled in turn by an American billionaire who runs JP's Peace and Love and Happiness Foundation, and we've got a little example of that. So you've got tax-exempt foundations from the United States cropping up in Scotland to buy up parcels of land and beautiful ancient assets, albeit in some distress, and bring in massive amounts of funds to transform it into presumably some sort of Disney version of the Highlands. We're not quite clear as to what's planned yet. And I would point out that this is all made possible by the whole financial system and the funny money system and the money creation system, which means that actual real hard assets can be hoovered up because a lot of money has been created, and the people who get it first get the benefit. And the pushback, the political pushback against this from the likes of Mike Russell, is to look for communism to save us. Another strong argument, he says, for radical limits on individual ownership, so an attack on property rights. So the abuse on one hand of the monetary system, the easy money policies, is producing a reaction on the other hand, which is attacking private property rights, the basis for economic success and freedom, and promoting essentially a form of communism. So we really don't want these extremes, but it is an interesting story, and it's one that we will follow to see if we can get more information on exactly who is buying up chunks of Scotland and where the money is in fact coming from.
Okay, David, thank you for that. I don't get a particularly warm feeling about that sort of development or the people who would then enter it, but we'll have a discussion on that another time. Just wanted to end with this young lovely. Who is this? The lady in pink, or is it? This is Ricky Collet. She was crowned Miss Netherlands 2023 on July the 8th at the theatre in Lowsden. And she'll be the second transgender representative at the Miss Universe pageant, next to Spain's Angela Ponce, who participated in 2018. So is it a woman? We're not sure. Well, she thinks she is. He thinks she is. But it's interesting that the Dutch government has fallen around about the same time. I don't know whether there's any connection between the two. We'll leave it there. David, Mark and Dr. Bruce Scott, thank you very much for joining us. That is it for UK Column News today. Thank you to all the viewers worldwide. We do appreciate you and, of course, your support for the UK Column. And if you're a member of UK Column, we will have extra in just a few minutes. So stay with us. Thanks. Bye-bye.